Hello everyone and welcome back to Kobean History. Today we are gonna have a look at some other history-related news stories of the past week. I'm just interrupting this video to bring some breaking news as I was editing this video. Earlier this evening a fire broke out in the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, and as of recording this video, the spire and the main roof at the back has collapsed. The medieval cathedral originally began construction in 1160 and was completed a century later. The cathedral was added upon and renovated throughout the centuries, but the spire that collapsed was built in the 19th century as a reconstruction of an earlier medieval spire. The outbreak of the fire is thought to be related to construction works part of a €6 million restoration project which was taking place in the cathedral when the fire broke out. At this moment the whole back of the cathedral has been engulfed in flames, and the fire is now spreading to one of the front towers of the cathedral as well. And the Paris prosecutor's office has now launched an inquiry to check if it was accidental or on purpose. If any other major news about this story comes out, I'll probably make another video in the coming days, or I might mention it in next week's episode. But for now, we'll get back to the video and we'll learn about the other things that happened this week. A study has been published which concludes that remains of a previously unknown species of hominin has been discovered in a cave on the island of Luzon in the Philippines. This species has now been named Homo luzoniensis, after the island it was found on. The species underwent island dwarfism, as it's estimated that they stood at less than 1.20 meters tall. It's being described as another Hobbit species, like the Homo floresiensis, whose remains were found on the Indonesian island of Flores in 2004. But you've probably already heard about this type of hobbit, as it was a big deal in the sector of human evolution and has been covered widely throughout the internet. But it is thought that this new species found in the Philippines was even smaller than the so-called Hobbit of Flores. It took a few years to find enough evidence for this new species. In 2007, scientists found a 67,000-year-old toe bone, which at first they didn't realize it belonged to this new species. They followed up the find with more excavations, however, which took place in 2011 and 2015. In total, they found 2 hand bones, 3 foot bones, a thigh bone, and 7 teeth that belonged to at least 2 adults and 1 child. As you might have noticed, this is far from a complete skeleton, and an attempt to extract DNA has failed due to the cave having bad conditions for DNA preservation. But the researchers seem to have found enough evidence to conclude this is a new species. It shares features with a number of other ancient human relatives, as well as some modern human features. In their mouth they had small molars that looked like those of modern humans, but their premolars were more similar to those seen in Australopithecus, Homo habilis and Homo erectus. They also had curved foot and finger bones like Australopithecus, in contrast to the straight bones that modern humans have. These curved bones indicate that it was adept at climbing as well as walking upright. Another mystery is how they got to the island, as there was never a land bridge that connected it to the mainland. On the island there is evidence of butchered animals that dates back to 700,000 years ago, so it is possible that a group of Homo erectus from Asia crossed the sea, possibly by rafting as it is too far to swim. And as this group became isolated on the island, they gradually decreased in size, so less resources were needed to sustain the population, as well as their fingers and toe bones evolving back to the curved shape, which made them better at climbing the trees of the forested island. But this is still speculation, and more research is needed to get more clarity on this new hominin species. Our next story is about the ancient stone circles of Britain. You're probably familiar with Stonehenge, but there are a lot more stone circles spread throughout Britain, and research suggests that the Avebury stone circles may have started as a commemoration of a single Neolithic house, most likely belonging to someone important to the people of that time. Using ground-penetrating radar, the researchers found that the southernmost stone circle of Avebury was centered around the site of a Neolithic house, with the stone circles and large earthen embankments being built around it in later centuries. Traces of this Neolithic house were already found during excavations in 1939, but the remains were written off as being of medieval origin. Now, with our modern technology, we found out that it was much older than that. The researchers say that the Neolithic house, which was about 8 meters across, was built sometime after 3700 BC, which was before the large stone circles at Avebury and nearby Stonehenge were built, which has been dated to have been at least after 3100 BC. A house of this size was unusual for the time, as most people lived in smaller huts, so it is believed that this solid wooden house was owned by a family that was of high social standing, or maybe even at the very top. It is possible that the people who lived there were regarded as being part of an important Neolithic lineage of people, and that might have been the reason why the house became the focus of the monuments. The house had probably already fallen down by the time it was first enclosed by a square of standing stones, and the later construction of larger rings of stones and earthworks around the site. The site also grew over the centuries and was then also connected to other Neolithic stone monuments in the area by long avenues that were marked by standing stones. Researchers are now planning to examine the northernmost of the two smaller stone circles at Avebury as well, to see if traces of another Neolithic structure can be found there. A collection of fossils dug up 80 years ago gives us a look at the biodiversity of prehistoric Texas. During the Great Depression, Texans were put to work as fossil hunters, which resulted in a collection of thousands of specimens being uncovered just before the Second World War broke out. This collection has been in storage ever since, being studied bit by bit occasionally over the years. Now, a researcher has finally studied and identified a large part of the collection of fossils from dig sites near La Parra Creek in southern Texas. The collection contains almost 4,000 individual specimens, representing 50 animal species which roamed the Texas Gulf Coast around 11 to 12 million years ago. These include elephant-like gomphothirs, rhinos, alligators, antelope, camels, 12 types of horses, and several species of carnivores, as well as some fish and reptiles, and even a few birds. The paper describing these fossils was published a few days ago, and along with the specimens that were already known to have existed in the area, some new discoveries were made as well, such as the oldest fossil of American alligators and a new genus of the species Gomphotherium, which was an ancient relative of the elephants. There are still a good number of fossils left to be studied, so who knows what else we could find there. So that was it for this week. If you're interested in learning more about the previously mentioned Gomphotherium, you can check out my elephant evolution video in which I go over this species, as well as other extinct relatives of elephants. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this one, or history related content as a whole, you can consider subscribing to my channel to get notified when I upload another video.